joining us for episode 6 of Book Talk. It's crazy to think we're at 6 already. But I'm Leo, also known as Book Dad, and as always, Charles is here with me, Charles Chapters. And tonight we are joined by Sarah Does Bookish Stuff. Sarah, thank you for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. Thank you guys for having me. I'm so excited. I remember when you guys started this. I can't believe you guys are at 6 episodes also. I think I've barely done one more than you guys.
Yeah, it feels like a handful, but it doesn't feel like 6.
Yeah, it's half a dozen. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's rolling.
Do you guys do these monthly?
We started with monthly, and now we're doing 2 a month.
Okay, awesome. So, that's a good rhythm. Yeah. I like that. I used to do like a weekly podcast with people, like a weekly. It sounds so good in theory as a listener. As a creator, you're like, oh my God, I have to do this every week. That's a lot of time.
Weekly is so hard because by the time you're done editing and doing everything and getting it out there, you have the next one. And so it's always just one, even every 2 weeks now, it's just like by the time it's done and put together and I have it on Spotify and I have it on YouTube, now it's like, okay, well now we got to start introducing the next guest and building content for the next guest.
Yep.
Yeah. And then the schedule, I mean, Charles and I are in very different time zones. And then, who knows what time zone the guest is on, because we had David in Australia in the past, and it's like, that could be difficult.
Yeah.
Of all of them, like Australia, every time I see someone do like an interview with Jay Kristoff, I'm always like, that's insane. Because he's up, it's like 2 a.m. and he's like, whatever, let's go. And I'm like, that's why you write about vampires.
Right?
Yeah, right.
It sounds like
he understands them. Yeah.
So for jumping in, so for anyone who hasn't come across your content yet, I guess, tell us a little bit about yourself and the kind of content that you create.
Okay, awesome. So there's like a lot. So my content actually started in a little bit of, I have a defiance problem. And I was having a moment of defiance where all I was seeing, I was on BookTalk and Bookstagram, and I was trying to figure out like, what do I want to read next? Like I love reading other people's reviews and watching other people's reviews and looking at other people's lists. And I kept feeling like I was coming across the same 6 books everywhere. And I got really annoyed at everything on social media. And I was like, someone should talk about other books. There's so many other books out there. And I have done a lot of like activism work. It'll connect, I promise. I've done a lot of activism work. And one of the things that teaches you is how to not be a bystander. And it teaches you to like ingrain this feeling in yourself of congratulations, you're someone. So when I'm like, someone needs to make content like that, I looked in the mirror and I'm like, congratulations, you're someone. Get on the camera and make content. And that's how I started. And I just I started talking about like just random shows I was watching and just like being conversant and stuff and like talking about random things I liked. And then I was like, books are really where I shine. That's like what I do most of the time. So I started talking more about books. And then I just kind of I went kind of viral a couple of times because I'm also have the activism background. So I'm always like, books are political. And like, I think what some people interpret when they hear political is they hear Democrat versus Republican. And I'm like, nope. Mm-hmm. We're going to have a bigger conversation about what politics actually is. And so I started connecting that to books, and that just translated to like weird, fun, very niche lists that I love putting together, and like book reviews of stuff that I talk about, like giving people like, this is on my TBR, let's put it on yours. And like, it just became super rewarding to see those comments of like, I picked this book up because of you. And that like reminds me to be a good steward with my platform and like not fall into the trap of rating everything 5 stars.
Yeah. I've seen a few do really well. The one I think that stuck out to me was the if you read this and you were okay with this, then you missed the point.
Yep.
That was great, and that one took off.
I was actually, and I don't know, I don't do it to go, I think the whole like attempting to go viral is never how it works. But like I was just really mad. I was just really like hurt and upset and angry, and I was seeing all this book stuff about people being like, don't bring books into this, it's a political situation. And I'm like, I was foaming at the mouth, and I'm like, oh, how are you reading Red Rising and saying, oh, that has nothing to do with Minneapolis? Like, what is happening? And so I just got really mad, and I recorded a video, mostly to blow off steam.
Yeah. So how long have you been doing it?
I have been doing God, content creation, I think since October will be my 1 year, which is very weird that I've been doing this for less than a year. I've been like, everyone's been on social media for like a million years. I did in another life, I was a very political person, much more political than I am now. But I did a political podcast with people. So I've done like podcasting and interviews and public speaking since like 2015, 2016. But actually doing content on like TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and stuff has only started in October. I've been a lurker for many years because like I just didn't want to get in front of a camera after that long.
Yeah, I honestly had no idea. I thought like significantly longer. I would have guessed because I think I'm coming up on my 1 year. Charles, you just hit yours. I would have guessed you were like at least a couple of years. Oh
yeah, you just celebrated a lot like last week. I think it was your 1 year. Yeah, no, I've had my account for a really long time. I'm a serial commenter, so like I actually had, which I think this is very impressive personally. Very proud of this one, but I had like a little over 1,000 followers just based off like my comments that I would leave.
Without
like,
any post.
I just have fun with, I've had a few comments go viral too, because like they're just fun. And like, they're always the ones that I'm like, why does it have to be this one? That's not even my best work.
I saw Alicia, another content creator. She recently said it's a different power to be known as like for your comments versus your content. Because, she's had a lot of her comments go viral, but not much of her content has. So it's like, how is it that all of my comments, and some of them are where my spelling's incorrect, get 150,000 likes, and then my videos do, not that much?
Oh yeah, I've had that happen quite a few times. I have a couple that I still get likes on Instagram, and I'm like, that was so long ago. And like, I had one from 2024 just recently surge again on TikTok, and I was like, this cannot be my legacy.
Yeah,
like I made a joke about a Borzoi.
I have many weeks where my most liked piece of content is a comment on somebody else's video.
Yeah. But at that point, I'm just like, whatever, just go have fun. And like, there is like doing TikTok and Instagram. I also think it's hard to explain to anyone that isn't on both, that the vibe is so different between both apps. Like I have so much fun doing content with like, on Instagram, it almost feels easier. Like people are less immediately out the gate critical and judgmental, whereas like on TikTok, I feel like people have this like moment where they're like judgmental at first, and then they're like, oh wait, no, you're being authentic, because they've been burned on TikTok so many times by inauthenticity. Yeah, and like that's how I feel about it. And like the comment sections are very different. It's, first of all, it's much easier to manage a comment section on TikTok than it is on Instagram. Instagram's a mess, but like I feel like on TikTok I get to have more back and forth like with genuine people. Like I'm actually having those back and forth genuine conversations in the comments, versus like Instagram, it's so hard to follow that it's hard to have those conversations. And then sometimes someone else will jump in and I can't tell who's talking to who anymore, and I can't see it, and I'm just like, oh, this is a mess. So like the vibe is just really different between both apps, but I like it. I think they're both like fantastic and so much fun. So I love them both for very different reasons. I'm much more of a commenter on TikTok though.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I would say like I feel like I get more community on TikTok, but I get more views on Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram like have a lot more followers, but I feel like the people I actually meet through TikTok, I feel like I connect faster and better with, which is very weird. And like I have my 10,000 group chats. Also, Instagram's messaging system is insane. It's overwhelming. I get like the tight knot of panic in my chest whenever I open my messages, and I'm like, nope, don't have capacity for this. So I have to like set aside an hour like every day to like respond to people, and I feel bad because I'll be like back and forth and then gone.
Yeah, that's me. Totally even in my like in real life friends groups where we'll be texting back and forth, and then 3 or 4 days later I pick up the conversation like I didn't just ghost them for the past couple of days, and it's just like, sorry man, life just gets like that. Even though we were in an intense conversation, I totally forgot I was talking to you for a moment, and then I remembered 2 to 3 days later.
Yep. Or like I see it there and I'm like, I'll get to you. And that's like the ADHD or curse, is like, that's when you know you're about to do something horrible and won't talk to them for a week. Like my best friend hasn't heard from me in 3 days. And I think about it and I'm like, if she's in here, I'm sorry.
This is why I couldn't talk to you. I had an event coming up, and so my life went on pause until this was over.
Yep. And like that's one thing that's about content creation that has forced me to get to like think about things. And I get really like existential with it. Of course I do. Oh, Sarah gets really analytical with it. News at 11, Fork Fountain Kitchen. But like, I think about it a lot where like, it's forced me to be present with my own boundaries and be like, I can't constantly respond to everything. So I need to make a decision to be like, okay, I'm putting this down and I'm not going to worry about this. And I hear it going off, but I've learned to like detach myself from it. And it's like forced me to be much healthier with that instant communication. And like, I grew up in a time when you would just vaguely plan and then the day would come and you just hope your friends show up on the day and the time. And like instant communication has not always been a thing. And I have to remind myself that like the instant accessibility to ourselves has made our lives worse. And it is healthy and good for me to like separate myself from instant accessibility. So that's the analytical lie I tell myself when I don't respond to 10,000 messages.
Well, and it's also like, even if I'm doing nothing, right, I might still not be mentally accessible right now.
Yeah.
Like I might have things going on in my life where I just need some moment to be alone and to just relax and not have to. That was like perfectly on you.
It was.
And,
it was
and not have to,
just like the framing was perfect.
It was perfect. And I don't want to have to just like perform right now. Even with my best friends who I'm authentic with, like if I'm not by myself, there's still a person I have to be. And sometimes I don't want to do that. And if I don't talk to you for a day or two, like it's nothing against you, but I don't have to be instantly accessible just because I have this phone on me.
Yep. I have a long-standing rule that I tell everyone that's new in my life. I'm like, look, I have an infinite time rule for texting. So if I text you, I don't expect an instant response. Like that's infinite amount of time for you to reply. The only time I would ever, like if it's an emergency and I need a response now, I will call you. Other than that, that's infinite time. Like if it's an emergency and you're not calling me, I don't know what to tell you. Like you should have. Then it's not that big of an emergency. So that's why I've like distinguished between text and phone calls. And then I still get a phone call and I stare at it and I'm like, please be an emergency.
And if you're calling me and it's not an emergency, it's about to be.
Yeah, I'm coming over there. I'm making it an emergency. I'll find something for us to be dramatic about now. Yes,
so you said
agree. Ben is correct. Like mobile number is not instant access. I completely agree. We used to send letters over months, everybody.
No kidding. Even just emails. I feel like emails, you don't have to respond to as quickly. Nobody, I don't think I've ever emailed a friend, or like not in recent years.
No, actually. Oh my God. I actually can't. And now that makes me think now, I'm like, did I ever email my friends? I don't know if I ever did.
Yeah, I don't know if I have. I might have, but if I did, it definitely hasn't been in a long time.
Oh, not for years. No.
Yeah, not since like 2006.
Yeah, I don't think I couldn't even tell you my best friend's email. Oh no. She's watching this, like texting me. She's like, you'll know it now.
You don't know my email. You're not talking to me. I haven't seen you in a week.
Yep. She's like, this is how I have to find you.
Yeah. This is how I find out.
Yeah. But I mean, it's interesting how social media has had that effect on like my brain and how I think about those things. It's cool. It gives you a lot of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So jumping back into the books and I guess the social media, you're talking about like people are talking about the same books and you wanted to get on and talk about books, that you didn't see on there a lot. What were those books? What are the books that you were excited about that nobody else was talking about?
Oh man, that's everything. I read a lot of like older fantasy books when I was growing up. So like I'm thinking like the Dragon Riders of Pern, Dragonlance Chronicles. I'm going back into older science fiction, like with Alastair Reynolds books. And I was like, there's so many books that like people don't really talk about that deserve love. Mercedes Lackey is nowhere on this app. Like what is going on? And like, it's weird because these are like people and writers that felt like such juggernauts in my life that to be online and only seeing like the same handful of books like come around, I'm like, okay, that's frustrating. And since then, my motivations have changed a lot. And I have learned a lot more about like why those books are so important, but why they're so important as a gateway. And so now like I'm retroactively going back to some of those popular series I haven't read. And then I'm like, okay, what about these books do people love? And like, how can I tell people, great, now let's yes and that. You loved like Throne of Glass for the character work. You should check out A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. Like you loved it for the sociopolitics. Go ahead and check out Daevabad trilogy. Like I like being able to guide people to other series and use those as a gateway. And like, that's been really fun for me is taking all these books that I just find. And I'm like, you would like that if you like this aspect. because I've also discovered like there's the social media trap in general where people think that that's all there is. And so they think like, okay, there's not really much out here. And so I try to deliberately find these like popular book series, read through them, and then be like, hey, I see that you're stuck in this loop of rereading the same couple series. Have you checked out this one? Like, have you met Ted? Like, that's kind of what I try to do with these books now. And I just find like that's so much more fun because I want people to read more. I want people to be excited and like go on this adventure. And like, they just don't always know where to go. And that was the biggest surprise to me is like, a lot of people just didn't realize what was out there. And so I'm like, let's show people what's out there.
Well, I think it has to do with the witchcraft that we call the algorithm, because you start seeing certain creators, or you start like you see certain creators and they talk about specific books, and then the algorithm just feeds you more of those books. So when you have a popular creator who talks about those books, but then also segues into some more of the literature that's out there, that's like, it's not as popular these days, but back in the 80s, it was huge. Like if you were into science fiction, this was the books that you read, you know, or even just like some lesser known one that are gateways. It's important to have creators who are willing to talk about those in conjunction with popular books, because those popular books are going to get new readers on your page, and then exploring and opening up their world to what's actually out there. Because there's a lot of science fiction that does not get the love and respect. And you talked about a little bit already, but like Anne McCaffrey is one of the greatest authors in the world, and you hardly ever hear about her on TikTok unless you're in very niche corners, even as BookTalk niche itself is.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely. And like, that's kind of how I started to reevaluate it. It's not that like people didn't want to talk about these other books. It's that like, these are the gateway series that are big and broad and they cast a wide net. And so like, it's important to catch that wide net and like talk about these book series and then be like, come here, little fishes. Let me show you what else is available. Like, and that's, I use it as like luring people. I'm like, I will manipulate you into reading different books. And like, it's manipulation for good. Okay. And like, I view it as like,
I've heard that before.
Veins. Yeah. It's fun. Not all manipulation is bad. I leveraged a friend who hadn't gone on vacation in forever. And I was like, actually, a couple of us are going to this dream location for your vacation. And that's why I asked you about it a few months ago. So you should come on vacation. And first time in 9 years, I was like, manipulated you into taking a vacation for good. Like, yay. So not all manipulation is bad. And like, you
sold me, and I don't know if that's healthy or not.
There's healthy forms of manipulation. And like, I think that's one of them that I think is important. And like, I call it tapping into these different veins. Like I only recently read Throne of Glass for the first time. And that was like that from a creator perspective, that like really worked out for me as far as like numbers and stuff. To be honest, I actually don't really check like my followers and my numbers. I know that sounds like, but I don't really check.
Up there.
They're there. And I'm like, people are they're there. That's all I know. And I'm just like, don't look at it because it'll stress me out. It'll make me feel like I have to change and be different. So I just try to like not look at it very often. But like I saw a massive surge. It stresses me out when I get those massive surges. And it's like, you gained 180 followers in an hour. I'm like, what did I do? What horrible thing have I done? And like, that's where I go first. And so I found that out with like Throne of Glass. That was how it spiked again. I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I realized like, it really is like tapping into these small veins where like you find these audiences that were missing you at first because you weren't sharing this love of this one big series. And when I started to think of it like that actually was like, so much more helpful with how I perceived all these gigantic popular series and like people getting frustrated with seeing the same few series. Like at the same time, it's so like these audiences are going to miss you if you don't connect with them on this major connection point, and they'll never see your other weird books.
Right. Yeah, I think that's kind of the part of it is that even if it's not necessarily like you're not trying to really read a lot of the popular books out there, there's a large demographic. They're popular for a reason. And again, it's kind of like a way to bring people into your fold so you can introduce them to more literature that's out there.
Yeah. And I love doing that. That's so much fun. And you never know what's going to like spark and like get really popular. Like I love that Alicia read M.M. Lion and now it's like everywhere. And I'm like, that's so cool. Yeah. So like you never know what's going to catch on fire. And so just luring people in by using that big connection point. And that's what they are. They're like community touchstones. I'm very big on community. And I think that like, the internet is a great place to have community and build community. And like those little touchstones of these major connection points are just the way that you start that. That's like the foundation. And then you just build on that. Like I've had comments come through where people are like, I never would have picked up this book if I didn't see you talk about it. And I found you because you made this like funny video about like Red Rising or something. And I'm like, I found you at the touch point and I got you to like expand because we met at that touch point. And I think that's so cool. And that's what those big book series are. They're those touch points. It's the yes and of the book community.
Yes, and I love that phrase.
Well, and honestly, we need people to like create that content because, like, for me, I probably started reading like 6 to 8 months before I started creating content. So, like, I've not been reading for that long. And when I, get on TikTok, and especially in the beginning, I'm seeing all the popular series. So I'm like, yeah, these sound great. I'm going to start reading them. But then, like, as I'm on here longer, I eventually start to see like the people like you talking about these series that I never heard of. And now I'm starting to get into those as well. And like we need that because otherwise, everyone's reading the same like 5 series.
Yep. It's the same reason why I talk about like, I read very fast. I have always read very fast. I literally finished The Hike today in a single day. I just have always been a quick reader. And I run into people at the end of the month. They're like, wow, that's crazy. I only read like 1 book, or like I only read like 200 pages. And I'm such a huge like proponent of we need you. Like slow readers, fast readers, medium readers, like that we need all of you. Like slow readers are these like detail oriented people who have this big full life and they make their life and their reading work together. And I think that's really important to show people you can do that and still enjoy and experience books. Like you read 1 book a month. That's more than a lot of people will read all year. You read a book a week. That's a fantastically human pace to read a book. Like I read 16 or 17. I need to call my friends more. That's like what I have to do. Like go out and do more things. That's all I learned. But you need all of it. Like I think there's this idea that there's like, I should be this one thing. I think should is the worst word in the whole wide world. Like there's no such thing as should. Should is just a could with some shame in front of it. Like none of that. So I tell people you don't should anything. Like read at your pace and do whatever feels right and natural for you. If your life allows for an hour a week, excellent. Then that's the meaningful hour of your life that you're going to dedicate to reading. It all has meaning. Like no such thing as wasted time if you love doing what you're doing.
The phrase that I use is stop shooting on yourself.
I love that.
Because you're right. It's a terrible word that has a negative connotation and it only makes you feel worse about yourself. And it's a comparative measure, right? And when in reality, it's like, it's either would or would not, as Yoda might have said.
That's exactly it. And like, I don't know, comparison really is the thief of joy. And when I stopped doing that kind of thing when I was younger, it just like, it really does change your whole life. Like because on BookTalk and Bookstagram, we run into the comparison every few months. It comes up like you have this comparison and I'm like, you're robbing yourself of the joyful experience that is taking in these stories. And like, all that matters is you're taking in a story. End of the day. There's like no good or bad way to do it. We could argue that like, audiobooks are better, or like I should be singing more songs, style stories like Odysseus did. Like I should do that. Like, no, you should just read. The only thing you should do is whatever's right for you. That's it. Period. End of story. Like, that's it. If reading a book a week 100%. Is good for you and works for you, great, do that. But like comparison will just like suck all the joy out of your life. And we get one of these. We get one of them. So don't worry about someone else's. Worry about your own.
Definitely. So also, you talk about the books that you read. You're reading a lot of books. You're talking about them all day long, or weekly at least on TikTok and Instagram. But that's not it. You're also writing a book, right? Can you tell us about that?
I am very like, what's so funny is I'm actually in this like small cohort of indie writers because I decided to go indie. I did query and then I made a promise to myself of like, if July hits and I haven't gotten any requests, I'm going to switch and go indie. So that July hit and I hadn't, and that's fine. The book industry, by the way, like, the other big gift you can give yourself is stop taking anything personally. It's never personal. So I never really felt bad about it. But like I started writing. I've always been like a writer. I've always written stories. I love storytelling, like storytelling in general. I could wax poetic about how like everything we do, like storytelling is like a fundamental thing of like what makes us human. We tell stories in Excel sheets, in PowerPoints. We tell it in written format. We tell it in conversations we're having with our friends. Like storytelling is just a fundamental thing that is required to make you human. And like, I've always been a writer. And I finally I have talked about the great bloodsworn oath that I have to fight Pierce Brown because of Morningstar Chapter 30, and I stand on that. I'm sorry. I love the series. Still have to fight him. It's when I reflect, did he do me a favor? Yes. Is it funny to tell people I broke up with my ex-boyfriend because of Pierce Brown? Yes, it's also very funny. But that relationship was really impactful for me, and it haunted me through therapy for the longest time because it was so it's so emotional to have gone through this manipulative, emotional abusive situation. And I just, as a storyteller, I'm like, I don't just want to sit with this in my bones. Like, I want to do something with it. So I decided, why don't I turn it into like a fictional story, that experience of what it's like to be gaslit and what it's like to be taken advantage of and have your identity stripped down and then slowly reclaim it, like coming out of that. Why don't I turn that into a story? And I just sat down and I just banged out a manuscript, and then I did draft after draft after draft. And I finally reached a point where I had edits done on it, and I was being a big baby. And I was like, I got the edits back. I'll look at those when I look at those. And that was in February, and April hit, and I still haven't looked at them. And one of my friends was like, hey, I'm putting you in a cohort with a couple of other indie authors. I need you to give me a release date for your book so I can announce this. And I'm like, oh, crap, I have to do something. And so he kind of pushed me. And so I decided, all right, you know what? I've written the manuscript. I've got the edits. I've invested the time. I've invested some of the money. What am I doing? Just go finish it. Like, how badly do you want to be sitting on your deathbed and be like, oh man, what could have happened? How would that have felt if I got this book out and it was on one person's shelf? And that's when I kind of resolved to tell it for myself and print it for myself and publish it for myself. So this is a story that belongs to me, and the experience is about me, including all the way up through publication. And I want to look at my shelf with a copy of a book I wrote with my name on it, with my cover art, and be like, I did that. And I don't care if I'm the only purchaser of the one copy that ever exists. I did it. And I needed to hunker down and start doing it. So now it's in with beta readers now. They should be done by the end of the month. I've gotten excellent feedback from beta readers. The whole process has been super crazy. I learned a lot about publishing. And once the beta readers are done, I'm going to go through and do my final draft. I have cover art almost completed with a really cool, indie, very never fresh green out of the gate artist. I'm very big on using human art, of course. And I have my cover almost done, and my indie reader or my beta readers are almost done. And then I'm going to be doing arc reads or moving forward and figuring out, okay, now that I've got this, how do we publish it and where do we go through? So I've been talking through that part of the process, but I'm actually on track to possibly be done by the end of the year, which, considering I was highly avoidant of looking at my editorial feedback as early as February, it feels kind of crazy. And it's all because I got gently and lovingly bullied by a friend of mine.
You need that.
Some
sometimes.
would say positively manipulated.
Yes, it was manipulation for good. I was positively manipulated into making a good change in my life. But ever since then, I realized I just love to write, and you forget after a while, if you don't do it for a long time, how fun it is. And now I have another duology that I'm working on that I'm halfway through, and then I have an epic fantasy that I'm working on that I'm like, oh, let's challenge ourselves and do character driven fantasy. So I'm working on I have a ton of projects now, and I'm like, this is kind of crazy. It's just become this thing that I'm enjoying. But I write for myself, and once that thing's published, it's none of my business what people think about it.
Yeah.
Always,
have you
right?
written
It's none of my
and completed
business
a
what people
book?
think about me.
Oh yeah, it's done. So it's written and completed. And so I'm just having it read by people, and then I have to go write my 5,000th draft.
So is this the first book that you've written and completed, or have you done that and just kept it quiet?
I have done stuff and kept it quiet. It just hasn't, I haven't felt good about it. There's I feel like every writer has this story that's lived in their head since they were 16 years old. And they want to find a way to tell it. And I have that going on. And so I've had this since I was 16-year-old story in my head, and I wrote it out. And then I was like, this is not living up to my expectations. I don't think this is the story. So that one's done. I just don't know if I'm going to go anywhere with it. And then I have another one. I wrote a cosmic horror because of course I did, that I've also sat on that I want to revisit and go back to. But now that I've had this experience and I've done it and I understand what I'm doing with my writing, I kind of want to go back to all these projects and see if I could make anything with them, because I think that would be fun. And I love the characters. I always love my characters. So I think it'd be fun. But yeah, it's not the first manuscript I've ever written. Technically.
Okay. And so you're kind of jumping between genres then, right? You're not tied to a genre.
I write how I read, which is all over the place. I like challenging myself and my ability to tell stories. And that's really what matters to me, is I just telling stories and coming up with them in my head, and I'm influenced by other things. Like I like pulling in little things of like stuff I loved about other pieces of media or other things. Like my cosmic horror has a lot of Dead Space feeling to it, and like my story that I'm working on right now is about like a disgraced exorcist who's hunting for his disappeared dad, and that's got a lot of influence from a movie, a Venezuelan movie that I loved, like a horror movie. So like it's weird what influences you to want to write a story, but now I've just like settled in and written a bunch, and so I'm kind of all over the place. And like I like jumping around from genres. I've never written character-driven fantasy, and so I was like, let's try character-driven fantasy stories. I found I kind of like doing it because it's more about like the characters than the plot, but the plot is still important. And like finding that balance is really cool. And I have to get better at banter because if it's character driven, they have to talk more.
Yeah. Okay. So when that, I guess when that comes out, I mean, let us know because I'm definitely interested in learning more about this. And I guess, to kind of wrap that up too, last one was, do you have a name for that? Or is that not
yes.
you know?
So I initially just called it, I'm calling it Into the Dark, which was like just a random throwaway title I gave it. But the more I wrote it, the more I'm like, I think this is the title. So it's Into the Dark, and it should be coming out. I don't want to say I'm hopeful because I'm nervous and scared, but I'm also hopeful at the same time because do it scared. Hopeful to get it out by the end of the year, which would be really cool, or at least very, very, very early next year. So depending on how badly my beta readers beat me up.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to hear more about Into the Dark.
Thank you.
Me too.
So, yeah, so something else that I've seen doing a little bit of research is that you enjoy public speaking, which I think for most people that's such a terrifying thing. So I guess tell us a bit about that and scenarios where you've been public speaking.
Oh, okay. So oh gosh, I'm trying to figure out the best way to, in a different life, many, many eons ago, back before time began, I had a political life, and I actually ran for federal Congress in 2018. So that meant it was the same situation. I got really mad about the state of things, and I was like, let's do something insane. Like, don't expect to win. Go in just wanting to like preach the message that matters. And I started working and collaborating with a couple of organizations, and like, they're like, hey, you run, we'll help you, we'll back you. I was like, oh yeah, why not? I'm someone, bystander problem. I'm like, I'm someone, I can do something. So like, let's go out and do something. And I decided to do it. And it turns out it's a lot of public speaking, so much more than you think. I was not good at it, but when you are in this situation, the pressure cooker is so intense that you get real good real quick. And over time, you kind of learn a lot of like tips and tricks about how to public speak. And like, I was very fortunate that one of my communications people was very, very good at this kind of thing. And I read through like one of George Lakoff's political theory books about like how to public speak. And one of the things that people don't understand is like, it's so much simpler than you think. We're so internally focused that like, it's hard to remember that the crowd really doesn't care about you. They care about what you're going to tell them, and they care about what you're going to make them feel. People remember more about what they're feeling than what you actually said. So like when you want people to walk away with a certain impression of your speech, insist on a certain feeling. And this is so counterintuitive. The best way to get people to feel a certain way in a crowd is to tell them what to feel. Like when you tell a crowd, we're mad, we're not going to take this, we're going to stand up against this, like people start to feel that, and they're like, yes, we are mad, we are not going to stand. You just tell people what to feel. It's so like antithetical. But I get more articulate the angrier and more passionate that I get, and it turns out that's a very positive thing for public speaking.
Yeah, I would imagine. So obviously public speaking is very different than like sitting in front of your phone and recording a video, but there's also similarities. So I guess, do you feel like that's helped you with like, content creation and getting in front of the camera?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because with the political stuff, I ended up doing like a lot of interviews on a bunch of various news stations and with some like smaller YouTube news folks. So like you get a lot of time staring at your own picture, and then you have the horrible ability to watch yourself back. But it trained it out of me. Like I don't feel weird watching my own videos back when I'm trying to like find my filler words and get better at them and things like that. I think with content creation though, being good at public speaking is like, it has actually helped a lot, or at least not being afraid of it has helped a lot, because like when you're in front of a camera, there's this natural inclination to close down and like protect yourself. And like, you don't want to be fully out there on camera because you get very like, okay, I have to protect myself. And that's a very normal thing. When you've been public speaking, you're like, I just want to tell people stuff. And that is really the point of this video. And that is what is important. I'm here to basically speak to this crowd about this thing that I want us to share together. And like, when you start thinking about it like that and not like, it's not about me, it's about the thing I want to share with people, then it makes it much easier for you to speak passionately and honestly. And I got that from public speaking, which I was very passionate about what I was speaking about. So you just have to like, let yourself speak about the thing and don't worry so much about you. Like, you on camera is less important than whatever it is you're talking about.
Which is actually also what Kamala Harris has given advice on to some up and comers, is that you have something important to say, so make sure you say it. Yep.
What's the point? What are you here to say? It's why, like, just a fun trick for anyone that's thinking about content creation. If you are like, oh yeah, I don't look really great today, and you're like, oh, sorry about my appearance. Don't open your video with that. No one cares about that. They don't care what you look like. I have recorded videos where I'm all up in my own face and all you can see is like the top of my forehead. Like, nobody cares about that. I have gone no makeup in front of the camera. People are there because they want to hear what you have to say. And if you have something to say, say it. You are just the delivery mechanism. That's all you are. And like, when you start to think about the message over everything else, it helps a lot. So even if your message is like, The Hike by Drew McGarry was a crazy book, it was really good. Like, talk about the book. It's not about you. It's about the book. Decenter yourself.
Definitely. So, all right. So reading, writing, public speaking, all different interests of yours. But one that I was not expecting is riding sports bikes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I was a hoodlum. Oh, my God. In college, I was a hoodlum. I rode sport bike for a while.
Yeah. Are you like just racing at all or just cruising?
So it all started, because everything is a story. It all started when I was in college, and a parking pass for one semester in the farthest possible lot, miles away, was $758 per semester. That's almost $1,500 a year. And I was paying for college by myself. That's expensive. A motorcycle pass for the whole year. Motorcycle parking was available in front of every single building, was $180. So I realized it's actually cheaper over 4 years for me to get a motorcycle pass. And so I started riding motorcycles. And then I wound up making friends with other people who ride motorcycles. And then I was suddenly in a group of people who ride motorcycles. And I didn't like cruisers. I was a big sport bike person because I feel so much cooler on a sport bike. I feel like a Power Ranger. And like, that was my primary motivator. And so I rode with my group of hoodlums, and what we did technically did racing. It just, you weren't supposed to.
That's usually how it goes, right?
Yeah, too fast. And like, I used to love it. It was super fun. I had the best time. And like, you do lose a lot of friends when you choose to join that community. And I was in that community. Like, I was in it. Like, I was in it. And it was a great time. I made some amazing friendships. I lost a lot of people. Then my brain finished developing and my risk calibration changed. And I was like, oh, okay. So I paired off and I backed off. And then I moved to Washington out of Arizona. And Arizona, you can ride year round all the time. And then in Washington, it's like you get 2.5 months to ride regularly. Good luck. And I'm like, it kind of sucks the joy out of it.
Hey, everyone in the chat, just make sure you get your questions ready, because we have the Q&A session coming up just after in about a couple minutes. But we're going to go ahead and transition into the next question.
All right, I'm ready.
All right, guys. Yeah. Get those questions ready. So I also wanted to talk about travel. Obviously, that seems to be another big thing for you. 22 countries is insane. Where all have you been?
Oh God. I've been to a lot of places. I've been to Indonesia. I've been to all over Europe. I've been to parts of Asia. So I've kind of gone all over the place, and I've done like all of North America. And then I've been to a couple places in Central America. So I just like to travel. My dad was an immigrant, like from England, and people don't think about people from England as immigrants. They're immigrants. So I grew up with family overseas, so we would fly back regularly, and traveling has always been a thing. And my dad has always been a big traveler. And so he would tell me his stories about like this coffee shop in Rome, or this like this walk he took in Portugal. And like, it just kind of, I took after my dad. I'm my dad's daughter. And like, I got the bug very early. So when I was younger, I'm like, before I'm attached to anything, before I've got like the serious job, now is when I travel. And like, I kind of fell into this pattern of traveling. So I do a big like 2 to 3 week long international trip every other year. And like last year was Iceland. And then I do in between, I try to do like local, stay in your own country and like go for a long weekend somewhere. It's like now this is one of my more local years. And I'm leveraging conventions to call that my local travel year. But I try to make sure that I'm like leaving and going other places because I think that's so important. Travel is incredibly important. Like going to another country and realizing how little people care about your own country is awesome. And like, it's freeing in a way. And you're put in this position. I love solo traveling, and solo traveling in particular, like you learn how much more you're capable of than you think. Like, real story, I was in Costa Rica on this very crazy back road. It was the one lane. No, it was unpaved. Like I left the pavement and I was driving over this crazy road. I don't speak Spanish. Sheer drop on either side. Jungle. I'm watching like monkeys in the trees, like jungle. I have no GPS. My gas is running low. And I'm like, oh my God, I was the most scared I've ever been. But I'm like, there is no one here but you. You are the only person who can solve this problem. And so I'm like, okay, get out of the car, utter a scream that rattles the heavens, get back in the car, turn Ashnico up to full, and just go, because that's the only option you have. And like, you learn what you can endure and what you can survive and go through. And like, it's so empowering. And like, I think it's very like strengthening for your sense of self and identity to be in these places where you're unfamiliar and you don't know things. Like, I just love learning about stuff like that and throwing myself into the fire with all things, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that sounds terrifying, but I could also see why it would be empowering as well.
It is. It's very, and it was terrifying, but at the same time, I look back at the photos that I took and I was like, dang, that was actually a really beautiful place to like have a nervous breakdown.
Yeah. Just, I think that's really important for those who can and are able to get out and travel. And there are all types of ways to make it affordable, even if it's unaffordable,
Yes.
right? I come from a really poor community. And for my sister, she did the same thing, but she did it because she got into some trouble and she wanted to get sober and she knew she couldn't do it where she was. So she just left the country and started traveling around doing like work aways where she would go to these different countries and work on site for house and board. And she was by herself and she traveled to 3 different continents, 14 different countries, and actually met her now husband while she was out and abroad. And I think like, who she was when she left versus who she was when she came back was a complete and total transformation. You know, before she had a lot of codependency issues. And like you said, when she's out there all alone, there's no one else. There's no one else to depend on. There's no one else that she can rely on but herself. If she gets herself into a situation, she has to get herself out of that situation. And it helped her feel so much more confident and capable that she's, you know, able to do things on her own.
Yeah. And I feel like traveling is it's such a fast way to get that experience. And like, I have lived a very strange life. So I've been fully independent and on my own. And I have not had like, I've just been fully on my own, I don't come from a moneyed family or anything, but like I've been on my own since I was 17. And so all of this was funded by myself. So believe me, when I understand like and I don't mean like funded by myself and then I can call my mom later to pay off the bill. Like this was me and myself and I alone. And like I learned how to find cheap ways to travel. And so you go in the off seasons, like you stay in hostels, like you can do stuff like that. But I think like for me, the overarching, like the why this and what does this do is it forces you to be uncomfortable. And in discomfort, that's how you change. So if you can't physically get out there and travel, go do things that make you uncomfortable. Like that's really all it's about, is like doing things that make you uncomfortable, because that discomfort will breed growth and you will become like a much more confident, well-rounded and emotionally tuned person if you learn how to tolerate discomfort. And like traveling forces you to, but you can gain that at home. Like you just have to make yourself do it. It just requires more discipline, but you can get the same like result of that experience, I think, at home.
So not just like for a hard transition right now, but let's go ahead and check out some of these questions that people have. So on par with writing your book and having it almost finished, has Malazan had any impact on your writing? And if so, how? That's from Malazandrew. Of course.
Of course it is.
Of course. Of course.
Of course it is. Actually, I feel like it has. Steven Erikson I think people know, like, oh gosh, how do I even start this? Steven Erikson he's so much more of a talented writer than he gets credit for. Like, he built this crazy huge world with Malazan, but as an actual like technical writer, he's so good. And he's like, the way he succinctly talks about things, and his descriptions are beautiful. The way he works in banter, the way he like balances his levity with his seriousness. That's actually affected how I looked at my own writing. And I was like, oh, I'm so serious. There's no like pressure valve. And like with Malazan, because he built up this whole series that like, it's grimdark. It's such a big, like, epic series with so much, and it's so pressure packed that I think without those moments of levity and like these characters, that he always has like two characters in a book that are just like the comedy duo, and like he does it differently every time, but it made me realize like that levity is actually very important. So I've actually integrated that, like thinking about how he works that in to like release the pressure of the story has like actually affected me a little bit.
Well, I know Melisandre is satisfied with that answer because he wants everybody to be impacted by Malazan one way or another.
Yes, and I think it's impossible not to be.
We have another question from Adam. He says, I clocked the Have You Met Ted reference. What are your thoughts on the How I Met Your Mother finale?
I try not to think about it. I think that like for all of that, to us to have gone through all of that as a society, for it to end that way, I was like, really? But like in a way, you kind of knew that like he tells you in the beginning how it's going to end. And I feel this way about, like, to draw a parallel with books, like the Poppy War kind of does the same thing. They tell you how it's going to end. And like I think a lot of us watching may have forgotten that. I just felt like they dragged it out a little too long with all the other relationships. By the end, when they had like Ted and Robin, I was like, I would feel weird about dating one of my friend's exes. But maybe that's just me. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and then like the mom was great. So then just like you bring the mom in for like a split second and then it's over.
And they're like, oh, by the way, she's done now. I'm like, oh, that was a lot of buildup for that.
Yeah. For nothing. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for nothing. Like, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So Adam is glad that you guys are on the same page. And we have Melisandre back with another question. What is your favorite pre-BookTalk series you suggest new readers to go back and read?
Oh, so it depends on our age range for new readers. I think every person who has kids, when they hit like 13-ish, hand them anything by Tamora Pierce. Give them Song of the Lioness, give them Wild Magic, give them Circle of Magic. Tamora Pierce is like incredible. I think for newer readers, I would probably say I tell them anything by Mercedes Lackey. In her Valdemar series, I think she just like sets the bar for fantasy right there. And I know everyone expects me to say Anne McCaffrey, but for newer readers, I would say Mercedes Lackey is a much easier introduction into fantasy. And then you can get because Anne gets weird with it. And I love that. That's what I love about Anne. She gets weird. But like start with something that's a little more cut and dry and linear. And I think that would be Valdemar.
And LK Winter, author couple, asks, which author has the prettiest prose?
Oh, man. That's a good question. I've read some authors with some beautiful prose. I always cite Tamsin Muir as a literary weapon. That woman, she leverages her prose to turn it into a character. Like the way she tells her story is part of the story. And I just think like she's so genius. I read her shopping list. I also think Hiron Ennis, they are just an amazing writer. I have never read descriptions the way that Hiron Ennis writes descriptions. Like in the Works of Vermin, the way that they write like the structure of the city and the way that the city comes to be, I've just never they take phrases that you would never apply to like a static building and they just like leverage that and use that and they make the scenery like alive. So I think Hiron Ennis definitely is a killer for it. And Tamsin Muir is just good at everything she does. So.
And then the Book Dragon's Lair says, what popular books do you just not vibe with? Other than book one of The Faithful and the Fallen.
It's not that I almost DNF'd Malice because it was just a slow start. Okay. It was just slow. And like BookTalk came through and was like, don't you dare put it down. And I'm like, oh my God. Okay. And I'm glad I pushed through because The Faithful and the Fallen ended up being like, it was all worth the experience. And like, it was his first series. If I had known that, I would have been a little more generous. I just didn't know it was his first book. Popular BookTalks that I just don't really, BookTalk books that I don't really vibe with. Um, oh, I hope I don't get canceled for this one. So I just had a conversation literally today. I liked One Dark Window. I was very shocked when I read it how much people blew it up because I was like, this was fine. It was a fun book. It was like it was good fantasy, but like it didn't change my life. And I was seeing people be like, oh my god, this book changed me. It changed my life. And I was like, oh. And the second book, Two Twisted Crowns, and I didn't care for that book.
Interesting. I always hear that Two Twisted Crowns expands upon One Dark Window and is better.
Yep, I heard, and I was expecting that, and I just did. There was a lot of emphasis on like the romantic arc between Elm and Ione, that are two characters, and it felt like it came out of nowhere because like we had a whole book where they never had any cross section, and then it felt like that consumed too much of the narrative for me. That like we became so fixed on like making this relationship be a focal point of the book that I felt like what she was building just didn't, it all fell flat because it was like rushing towards these little romantic moments between those two. And I was just like, oh, this kind of like killed the story. So
then also, oh, sorry.
Oh no,
So
that's
Mike
me. I'm sorry. I apologize, everyone. No, please don't cancel me for. I liked it. I liked the first one. I like it.
Mike is saying, I know you love to exercise. Do reading and working out scratch the same itch, pushing yourself, etc.?
Ooh, I think they do in different ways. Your brain's a muscle. You got to work that out too. Like everything is a different muscle. I'm a big fan of fitness, and reading is one of those things. I listen to books while I work out, and so sometimes it does motivate me to work out in the gym. But I feel like I do get the same kind of like sense of fatigue. It just does feel different. So when I finish a whole book, like I read The Hike, and I actually felt like mentally fatigued. I get up and like walk in. I pace my apartment in circles whenever I finish a book, and I just think. And that's what I do after post book. So I feel like it does give me the same like exhaustion. It's just different. Like physically working out, I can't move and things hurt. Like yesterday was leg day and I upped my weights on everything. So today I'm like, thank God I'm sitting down. But with actual like reading, my brain can't think about stuff. Like I have to turn on Love Island because that's all I have the capacity for.
Love Island. Everybody's on Love Island. I'm watching The Challenge on MTV right now. It's actually Paramount now, but The Challenge is my guilty pleasure. When it comes to like brain rot television, I'll sit there and just rub my feet together and giggle the whole time. I start sweating. I love it.
Oh, I love a reality dating show. I'm a sucker. I watch The Ultimatum. My sisters and I will text each other about like The Ultimatum, and like Love is Blind is our big one. I don't know. Something about like messy. I've been referring to Love Island as the romantic Stanford prison experiment. I'm like, this is a sociological study, and I watch it from like, I can't make myself think about stuff, but as I'm watching it, I'm like with my glasses on, like, interesting.
Right. So Reads asks, if an author was to write an introduction to one of your books, who would you want?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
Chat, we got some great questions. Keep them coming.
Yeah, honestly, right now, like Jesse Aragon just wrote The Demon Star. I would kill for her to write an intro for me. Yeah.
I'm reading it. I'm like halfway through it right now.
Because she's all over the
mail right now.
It's so good. And like, cause she's all over the place and I'm all over the place. Like her book is horror, science fiction, and fantasy. And that's like, those are my primary three genres. So like, and I love what she wrote. I love her insane world and I love how she writes. So like, I would love for her to do an intro, but I'm much shyer than you think about asking for that stuff.
Malazandru's asking, what are your thoughts on the difference between modern readership versus 80s to 90s readership expectations?
Oh, they're so different. Oh my gosh. This is something that I've actually thought about like doing a video on, is like, this is like a huge, Andrew, you asked such a big all-encompassing question. It's big partly like modern. We've become so used to instant gratification that we're even seeing it in the book space. And like a book will end, and like so many people talk about like, oh, the first book was so good, but the second book fell flat. That's because that author was nobody before that first book came out. And so no one cared. They had all the time in the world to write that first book. They knew exactly what they were doing. They got to take their time, make it perfect, then just like produce the story they wanted. And then that smashes everything out of the water. And then they're like, oh my gosh, this is so popular. And their publisher's like, okay, we need another book next year. That's now all of a sudden they went from having all the time to tell the story they wanted the way that it deserved to like, oh God, I have to have this done in like 4 months. And so they're just crashing through it, trying to get a story out. And so you lose the quality of that story because readers now expect that instant gratification. And we also like, this is also why I think slow readers are so important, because like they force that production and that rapid pace to slow down. And like, it's just become so much more about get the next thing out there and stay in the zeitgeist. And it has become less about telling a good story. And readers, I think we also have to take some accountability for that, because that's partly our fault, because we're so used to this instant gratification culture. That's the demand we put on our authors. And like, frankly, that must be so stressful for some of these authors to deal with. So they're writing under pressure from their publisher and writing under pressure from their readers and fans. Like that's a lot of additional pressure now. So like, I'm not shocked when certain authors take like 5-10 years between books, because like they freeze. Why would they not freeze? Now, all of a sudden they went from having as much time as they wanted to this new audience of like modern readership that wants instant stuff. And they're like, I don't know how to write with that. So they freeze. And like, we get less of the stories as they deserve to be told, and more of the stories as we just need to get them out there. It's more about getting them out there than telling the story. Like, and it denies it that human thread and that really important piece of like humanity and our dedication to human storytelling. It takes that importance of human storytelling away. So we are, as readers, are partly accountable for that. And I think that like, we have to think about that and how we read.
Mike Bibliophile asks, also, what book character would you pick as a workout buddy?
Ooh. Oh, man. That's a great question. I'm on a big Demon Star kick, so I love you, Sierra. But I don't know if this will surprise people or not. It may surprise people because of where it's coming from. I'd probably go with Victra from Red Rising, because that's my girl. I love her. She's mostly because she wouldn't, like, when I'm sitting there staring at a PR and I'm like, I don't know if I can do this, she'd be like, shut up and pull. And I'm like, she's right. Like, because whenever I'm like spotting someone else, I'm like, grip it and rip it. Ain't nothing to it but to do it. Like, get in there and just pull it. And I need someone to yell at me the same way. And I feel like she'd look at me and be like, shut up and pull your weight.
For sure.
Yeah, exactly. Like that quiet motivation. Like, don't be stupid. You can do this.
Yeah, like, shut up, stop talking, just pull the weight. Like, talking doesn't make the weight lift, go.
So I think the book mama probably asked the most important question I've seen tonight. What is your favorite reading snack?
My favorite reading snack. Honestly, I don't know if this is gonna sound weird. I'll just sit there with a container of blueberries. It's not even that exciting. I just sit there with like a container of blueberries and a glass of white wine. And that's like, I just sit and I like read, and it's something about them. I absolutely eat them, and then I feel fake healthy. But then I also realize I've eaten like a pint and a half of blueberries. And I'm like, why do I feel terrible right now? Well, because the only thing I've put in my body is an entire pint of blueberries.
It could be worse.
Yeah. And fermented grapes.
Yes, exactly. And it's just a big fruit salad in my body right now.
So I greatly apologize to this user here, because I don't know what their username is, but they ask, which book would you start first, The First Law or Mistborn?
Oh, if I had to pick today, I'd probably go with First Law, just because like this, I haven't read a Brandon Sanderson book yet. I will get to him. He's on the list. His writing is much more I'm being so revealing about my inner landscape. His writing is very like buoyant and optimistic, which I tend to shy away from, because like, I don't know, I've had a weird life. And so like when things are immediately like uplifting, I kind of go like, I get very suspicious. But when like out the gate, it's like Joe Abercrombie's like, this world hates you when it's mean. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Yes, I'm comfortable here.
I can relate to this.
Yes, this tracks. This assuages my feelings. It aligns with what I know about the world.
It's Justin Chance asks, what genre seems like they wouldn't meld for you, but slaps when they come together well?
Oh, man. That's a really good question. I feel like I've discovered recently it's like lit fic and science fiction. Like a couple of the standalones that I've read that have just obliterated me. Take literary fiction and science fiction and marry them together, like Sharkheart and Changing All Stars.
Oh,
They take
yeah.
sci-fi and lit fic. I will be like sobbing my eyes out. And like it's a book about a man turning into a shark. And like, or it's this really impactful book about the US prison system told as like the Hunger Games. It's just, I think sci-fi and lit fic don't sound like they would work, but they have so much overlap that like, if you really think about it, of course they work.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought about that because you're right. They sound like they don't. But then when you actually put them together, you're like, wait, actually, this is a great way to hold a mirror to ourselves in society.
Oh, yeah. That's why I love science fiction. Science fiction is, I think, the question that asks us, like, what will we become? And like fantasy tells us what are we capable of? Science fiction tells us what do we have the potential to become? And horror is that like lens through which we have to face something that's difficult about ourselves. And like every genre has something really big to offer. And I feel like horror as a genre is the most human because it demands the most understanding of like complex social anxieties and lingering latent human fear that we never get over. And like it requires such an introspective lens that like I think horror is the most human, but I think science fiction and fantasy beg those other two very important questions, which is why I tell people to read a bunch of different genres. Every genre is going to ask you a different question. And like be diverse, not just in your authors, but be diverse in your genres.
Okay, and the last question we're going to field here for the Q&A session is from the Book Baba. So you know it's going to be good. Who is your BookTalk nemesis? And be specific.
Oh, my BookTalk nemesis. Oh my gosh. I don't know if I have one. I feel I have talked about this. I have unrequited nemesis going on with Pierce Brown, obviously. But like, I don't have like a nemesis. I don't have a dedicated hater. So many of my friends have dedicated haters in their comments who just hating them. I'm like, I don't have a dedicated, I want a dedicated hater. My goal for this year is a dedicated hater. I love everybody. Like I find a lot of value in everyone's content, everything that they do that like, I don't really have beef with people. And half the time, like I'm a big believer in what other people think of me is none of my business. And like, I don't put myself in people's heads. I don't emotionally excavate. If someone doesn't come and talk to me about something, like I wash my hands of that. I'm like, if you don't want to talk to me about it, then it's not important. And I don't need to concern myself with it. So I just don't really like think about it.
It says that's such a diplomatic answer. And I agree. The politician just showed up, ladies and gentlemen.
Listen, all right. I know my history, all right?
So, you touched on it just a little bit earlier, and if you want to, we can totally just, skip over this. But I do remember you saying in the past in one of your videos that your father has passed, but one of the ways that you honor him is you talk about him every chance you get. So I wanted to give you the space here to talk about your dad and, maybe his impact he had on you in your readership, in your journey reading, but also just in general.
Oh yeah. So I love talking about my dad, and like he passed in 2024. I had older parents growing up. So like my dad was 84 when he passed. So like he was retired when I was graduating high school. It's a very weird space to occupy when your parents are older. Like your relationship with death is very different. You think about them dying much sooner than your friends do. So like it was a heavy blow to me to lose my dad, but I like talking about him because like I'm my dad's daughter. I'm the most like my dad ever was. He was the smartest person I think I've ever known or met in my entire life. He had the craziest life. Like I think my life is crazy and I talk about all the stuff that I do. I think it's because of my dad's, like his crazy life. He grew up in post-Nazi V2 bombing of London in World War II. So his earliest memories are watching the Doodlebug bombs fall like on the city of London. And his mom's like, get in the bomb shelter. And then like, he was very poor, dirt poor, like selling scraps of iron for food. He wound up being very intelligent. He scored third nationally on an aptitude test for the entire country. And he took it 2 years earlier than everyone else. And he ended up getting a full ride scholarship to a very prestigious boarding school called Christ Hospital, which is actually a boarding school. And it is very well known. They have a great TikTok page, weirdly. And they're hilarious and self-aware. And my dad went there and he loved it. And he went from there to a full ride scholarship to Cambridge. He wound up he did some work with the Algerian government. He worked for, he helped build one of the most impenetrable banks in Switzerland. He was a consultant in favor of Jamaica. He was on Jamaica's side when Jamaica was arguing over trade agreements with Britain about the banana trade, he actually helped them win against his own country. He lived such a crazy, storied life. And like, he did everything. He lived in Rome. He spent a summer living in the attic of a brothel in southern France. Like, he drove across the Sahara Desert with a Saudi oil prince in a Lamborghini. Like, my dad just always, he's the epitome of like, say yes more than you say no. And that's my whole life philosophy, is say yes more than you say no. Like, do more things. Do it for the lore is like my favorite thing. But my dad is like, he was my gateway to reading. He had a classical history degree. And so he always bought me these like comic books of Greek myths. And that's what started me, was comic books and Greek mythology. And he was a big sci-fi guy. And my dad loved trashy sci-fi. Oh my God, he loves trashy sci-fi. Like, trashy sci-fi, trashy fantasy. My dad was about it. My mom's much more elevated. She's much more like, I'm reading this biography about Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And I'm like, I read this book about nuns and they're lesbians and cannibals. And my mom's like, great, your dad would love it. But that was like, he got me into science fiction, and that's been my first love, because like my whole family are all like fantasy readers, and then my dad and I would hold down the fort and be like science fiction corner of the family, and like that would be our thing. And so we always bonded over science fiction. And when his memory started to go, having something to talk about was really useful on the phone. And I keep coming back to the series. I can't escape it. It's inescapable for me. I'd started listening to Red Rising, and I was talking to my dad about the chapters. It's like I started it right when he started to decline, and like I would talk to him about the chapters, and we'd talk through them, and he'd like try and remember things for me. And like, he absolutely hated the work in of the British slang that we get in Red Rising, but he would have told me how much he thinks the series is just awful, but then he would have read the entire thing in a week. Like, just to be a dedicated hater. Like, my dad could hate like no other too if he wanted.
Did he have one, or who do you think his favorite character in Red Rising would have been?
Oh, would have been? I think he would have said he hates everybody, but I think he probably would have liked Dancer the best.
Yeah.
He loves that like uncle character every time. He always loves the mentor character. So I think that would have been his thing.
And the book Mamba said, the true most interesting man in the world.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
And I was like, my dad just did so much cool stuff. And like, that's why whenever I talk about like my own personal lore, everyone's like, you've done a lot. I'm like, that's what I grew up with. That was my role model. He did everything.
Yeah, that was the normal. Like, you're in life, you're supposed to experience it, right? Like you said, he's much more of the say yes than say no, and just what an amazing life. And this is like the elevator pitch of here's my dad's life and the interesting things he did. Like, that doesn't even probably scratch the iceberg of like the depth of those stories that each one of those events had, and all the events in between that led up one to another.
Oh, I didn't even get to the part where he got in a fight with an Australian rugby team.
The whole team?
Yeah, he was chased. He had to run through the entire city of Cambridge and then flee to climb the fences to get to the college campus, because the way that authority worked in Cambridge back then was like their authority ends with campus police. So at the line of campus is when the police can't get him. So he climbed the fence and he threw himself over the like protective barrier to escape. And he was like, I win. And then he ran to his dorm and he got away with it.
Also that right there, if he went to Cambridge, that's awesome. That's like, one of the most historic universities in the world. It just kind of like put this in there. I made a joke once when I was at work, and I said something about like, when I studied at Cambridge, and I said it in a very joking manner. But the problem with me is when I joke, people often take it serious. So then like 3 years later, it came up in conversation. Somebody asked me about my time in Cambridge, and it clicked with me. Everybody in that room thought I was serious.
Oh no.
And so I was like, for all these years, everybody thought I was this Cambridge studied, educated student, guy. And I'm like, I'm a college dropout. No way I studied at Cambridge.
Like, well, thanks for believing I would go there. Yay. Like, I also have a really dry sense of humor. So like, I've learned that when I make a joke, I have to then immediately be like, I'm just kidding. Like, I have to, because I will deliver it so dry and serious. And I'm like, oh no, I've been believed too many times.
Exactly. Too many times where people take me seriously when I think I'm very obviously joking, but it does not land the same way. Have you ever thought about like writing a story of his life, kind of a biographical story? Because like the book Mamba said, right? He sounds like what an interesting life that man had led.
I actually have, like, I thought about it before he passed, but like he was already kind of getting sick and it's hard to have those conversations. But we all used to joke that my dad would tell us the same stories over and over again. And my sisters were always like eye rolling, but I was always like rapt with attention. And I'm really glad that I paid attention because I'm like, yes, he did tell us the stories over and over, but now I have those stories. So like I can do something with that. So I have thought about it. It's been something I've considered, or like work him in as a character somewhere. I think would be kind of cool too, maybe.
Yeah.
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a character in your books, just this very interesting man who's, lived all these different lives and maybe some type of, inspirational influence over the main character.
Yeah, I think that would be so great. Like I've thought
Like an
about
Obi-Wan.
that. So it's definitely yeah. It's been on the radar.
Yeah,
That's
I've
awesome.
wanted to start to try to write a book about my father because he's similar, led, he came from El Salvador, led a very different life, but the problem is he's much more like hush hush about his upbringing because it was so much different than like the life that I had, and he struggled so much, and he tried to work so hard to keep me from that struggle that for him to talk about it is just like, I don't know, there's a lot of shame involved with it, and I've been begging him to sit down with me so I can just like ask him a bunch of questions and get because I don't have a linear understanding of my father's life. I have all these pieces of his life that were just scattered throughout that are incredibly interesting, but I have no idea how they connect with one another. I still to this day don't know the story of how he came to America. I just know he was once in El Salvador and then he was in America, and he just won't tell me about the journey.
Oh man, I like, especially if you're someone who has immigrant parents, like getting that story, even just for yourself, like there's something about knowing where they came from that like is part of you too. And like it weirdly helps with like this feeling of connection and groundedness, which is a whole different conversation that I could get into. But like this whole connectedness to where you are, I feel like knowing that story is actually very helpful. Like my dad actually had a green card with no expiration date because he camped out in New York City in the Social Security office for this random program they did, and his green card didn't have an expiration date, which they'd never seen before. So like knowing that story helps me connect to this experience of my dad coming here, and how like, especially with like a white British man, you think, oh, it's easy. He just came over here and bought a house. It was not easy for him. And like knowing that even like there's challenges even for people that you perceive as having privilege is like important to talk about. But like, especially from folks that are not from communities you perceive as having privilege, like knowing that story really like helps you better understand them and your roots, I think. So immigrant parents always get their stories. It's very important.
All right. So we're kind of getting to the end here. So before we let you go, just, for anyone who's watching and maybe didn't catch the intro because you talked about it a bit there, but anyone who's watching and doesn't follow you, but maybe, decides to after this, what kind of content can they expect to get from you?
Oh, I do a lot of book stuff. I do a lot of bookish related things. Occasionally I talk about writing. Mostly I do like book reviews. I do book lists. I try to help people find books that are something that they normally wouldn't connect. And I occasionally do like, you get hyper specific weird lists from me, which is like a book that feels like drinking a cup of coffee on a rainy day. Like I do hyper specific stuff like that too. But I'm also introducing a lot more interviews and stuff because I talk about these niche books. I also want to talk about these niche authors. And so I want to go find more of these authors you don't see in big interviews and get them there too. So I've got a couple of author interviews coming up too, to give people an idea of like what else is out there and what their background is. So like try and connect books and authors. But I'm always trying to help people find like what's your next big read.
That's awesome. Well, guys, that wraps up episode 6 of Book Talk. So, Sarah, thank you for joining us. Really glad to get to know you more. We see, a couple minute videos or short videos here and there, but to get to talk to you for a while has been great. So, thank you for joining us. If you don't follow her, check her out on TikTok and Instagram. She's very active on both. And then make sure you guys also check us out on booktalkmedia.com for updates on who our next guests are going to be. You can also follow this show on YouTube and Spotify. And again, guys, I am Book Dad here with Charles, and we will see you on the next episode of Book Talk.
Have a wonderful time.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, Sarah.